Hey, what's up, Giants fans? Welcome to another episode of Giants Talk. I'm Cole Kuiper here with Giants insider Alex Pavlovic. We've got another FanFest event in the books with Giants opening day just 2 months away. We're going to talk about that, plus the Giants search for a second baseman and answer some more mailbag questions from listeners. Before we get started, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini Sleep World. Mancini Sleep World is kicking off the year with their President's Day sale, where you can save up to $1,200. Mattresses start at incredible prices, like Beauty Rest Queen mattresses starting at just $299. Plus, you can get 0% financing for up to 60 months, including on Tempur-Pedic, with payments starting as low as $29 a month. Just visit sleepworld.com. All right, Alex, let's start off with some discussion of the Giants' second FanFest event of the year, the one in San Ramon, as they make their way through the East Bay with the A's abandoning their territory.
Yeah.
I was there. I was on site, and it was massive.
12,000 people, according to the Giants.
I would say that's even like a conservative guess.
It's a 12,000 plus, so I put
Yeah.
12,000 plus one Kuiper family.
There we go.
It is their biggest stop, their biggest crowd at any stop since they started this tour 3 years ago. I will let you maybe give a recap of it. My takeaway from that is that two things. One, we have spent, I don't know, 3 weeks, a month now doing podcasts where we talk about how disappointing this offseason is. And it is a reminder that no matter what, there's just a very, and I think most of our listeners are probably part of this because they're listening to Giants Talk in January. There's a very dedicated fan base that will show up that first week, that first month, and be there this summer and be excited to go to the ballpark, which is great. I also think the Giants probably lean on that quite a bit.
Yes.
And then the second part of that is similar, which is they are correct that the East Bay is going to be really, really good for them. And the A's abandoned it. And not that like it was all A's over there anyway. There were a ton of Giants fans there before. But this is just, I think, a little signal to them. I mean, this was very deliberate to go to San Ramon the year after the A's left. And this is a signal that, like, you are correct. You are going to have the entire Bay Area, which, again, a good reason to, you know, maybe be a little bit more aggressive in free agency. There's a really, really, really fertile ground out there. We're taping early today, but it's just a good situation for them. And I think if you are on the vocal side and the side that we hear from and the side that we have maybe been representing the last few weeks of like, hey, maybe do a little bit more in free agency. This is a reminder of that because you have a ton of people all over the Bay Area who are ready to jump in on this team. And especially at a time, you know, the Warriors it's a rough situation out there right now. And
Yes.
Niners fans, you're watching a Super Bowl you probably want to opt out of. So this would have been a good offseason, I think, to push a little bit harder. And
I do think these FanFest events, though, are tailored for the fans who love the guys who are on the team. I don't think a Cody Bellinger appearance at one of these, or even like a Kyle Tucker, really moves the needle. These were people who were losing their mind to see Jung-Hoo Lee, who were willing to wait in 5-hour lines to see Logan Webb.
I think my point is those people are there, and those people are ready to fill Oracle Park all summer long. And, you know, you could do a little bit more just knowing you have that backing and that it's going to be, we saw attendance was good last year. We've seen, I think it was 6,000 plus in San Jose. So that's nearly 20,000, about 20,000 at 2 stops. And we know Sacramento always does well. So yeah, good fan base. We see our listenership numbers. We know people are committed. That's where I think it's like, just push a little bit harder. Maybe imagine this fan base back in the postseason.
Yeah. I mean, if they end up with Northern California to themselves for the foreseeable long run future, once the A's go to Vegas, there is no excuse not to have one of the biggest payrolls in Major League Baseball. That is such a massive market and demographic for one team. But this was a great reminder. I felt bad for a lot of people in these lines at this event. I mean, like I said, it felt like more than 12K. And I don't know that the people organizing this expected such a turnout when they planned it at the location in San Ramon, because it wasn't well equipped to handle the madhouse that rolled through. There were a lot of people standing in these lines for long periods of time. I kind of bopped around. I didn't bother, doing any of the FanFest activities. I was just saying hi to Giants Talk listeners who were standing in line for hours. I was trying to make their experience a little easier. I saw a lot of friends. I saw a lot of friends' parents. I saw a lot of listeners who were waiting to see Jung Hoo Lee. Vitella made an appearance. I saw our friend Anthony Garcia and Therese Vignal, who have been kind of emceeing these FanFest events. So it was a fun day. But yeah, the East Bay turned out in numbers that had to have surprised the Giants.
Yeah, it's interesting because we talked last episode about how I thought they should go back to just the singular, Oracle Park. And on the one hand, you could say, like, look at these crowds in the East Bay. On the other hand, I guess my counter would be like, it's a lot easier when you have 25 players there and a bunch of different booths. And like you were joking last time about like you get to the front of the line thinking it's Tim Lincecum, and it's like
Mike Fondo.
So Mike Fondo just continue to take strays. But at least it's Mike Fondo, like at least it's there. It's not one person or four people were there to sign all these autographs. So yeah, I think it validates. It's a great crowd. It also, I think, validates that there's some value in doing it at the ballpark where it's a little bit easier for people. I got quite a few messages from people who were excited to be there and also said I didn't come away with an autograph or anything.
Yeah. Maybe also doing it at the ballpark, you can kind of control the flow of people. You know how many people are getting in, whereas an open air mall, like people were also there just to experience the venue that FanFest was at. There was like a child's birthday party at one of the restaurants, and I felt so bad for the parents trying to park to drop their kids off at this birthday party.
I was watching some videos and I saw like a Williams and Sonoma in the back. I'm like, can you imagine just going out to get like a new pot?
Exactly.
Like, well, not today.
Yeah. We basically just posted up at Fieldwork and had a beer, had a pizza, and waved at everyone in line.
It's a positive thing. I mean, they have a lot of reasons to be excited about where they're at. And to your point, like it's, I don't think there's going to be more people there if Kyle Tucker's showing up. I would have been there, I guess. But if Kyle Tucker's showing up to FanFest in San Ramon, but it is a good crowd out there. And I guess the Giants should, I'm saying take that in the right way. Take that in the way of like, you're going to dominate the Bay Area and it's started already and will for years to come. And, take advantage of that.
It was nice for me to be there, and maybe you experienced the same thing in the San Jose Fan Fest, but in the off season, when we're not at the ballpark, I'm not really around Giants fans much. So most of the Giants fan kind of experience I'm entrenched in is what is online, which can be way more negative than maybe what the overall sentiment of the actual Giants fandom is. Yeah. People at this were so happy, and it really warmed my heart that people weren't there upset about lack of signings, or people were there because they like Casey Schmidt, not because they want Casey Schmidt replaced. See,
I think maybe just because of the nature of my job, I still get the
you still get the complainers.
Love the podcast. What's the plan in right field? Buddy, I don't know.
Yeah, people don't ask me those questions because they do not think I can field them.
Yeah, Drew Gilbert has a new number, so
I'll handle that one. Plan. How do we feel about Drew Gilbert's new number?
Here's your plan.
All right, with that, let's talk about Casey Schmidt in second base. As reports came from The Athletic that the Giants made an attempt earlier this offseason for CJ Abrams.
Yeah, good story from Bags. I had not heard Abrams' name before. I wonder how quickly that came together as Mackenzie Gore got traded. And it basically the gist of his story, and go read it on The Athletic, is that they pushed hard for Abrams. They were rebuffed. They were willing to talk about Joshua Gonzalez, some other guys that they were willing to talk about, Johnny Level, Bo Davidson, Wisenhunt, Bresnahan. So those are a lot of their dudes. I think I had two takeaways from this. One is if Gonzalez was on the table and the Nationals actually said no, I'd be shocked, and I think they probably made a mistake.
That's what I was going to say. Like, not only does that seem like an insane offering for CJ Abrams, but it seems like an even more insane decline.
Yeah, and these things are, trade discussions are weird because you might say like, hey, we're willing to talk about him if it's like, we don't know when this happened too. I mean, it might be like is there a Gore Abrams package and it's headlined by Joshua and Johnny Level's part of it, and this is just a massive blockbuster. I don't know. We don't know what the actual. I'd be surprised if it was like, here are these actual 4 or 5 guys for CJ Abrams only. So I do think there's a lot we don't know. I just, if I were the Nationals, like, I don't know that you're going to do much better than that when you ultimately trade him, or any better than that. I mean, he's number 30 on MLB Pipeline's list. I think I saw Keith Law had him at number 38 today, with basically wrote what I've been saying here for the last few weeks, which is that if you look at the history of these guys and you look at even some guys in the current top 10, the people who have been on the trajectory that he is on, often very quickly end up in the top 10. And and so if you're the Nationals and you have a guy who's like a year from now potentially like the number 6 prospect in baseball, that's a pretty good haul. So we don't know what's true here and what's not, or how much of this is, actually was just kind of posturing back and forth. What we do know is that it kind of doubles down on something we've talked about here a million times, and I've reported going back to the winter meetings that they are very aggressive at second base in particular. I'm curious to like get to Scottsdale and not only see where this ends up, but also spend some time, once Giants officials can talk a little bit more openly and are not worried about actual discussions around the league. Like, it just does seem like right field's a bigger issue. And it seems like if they were going to make a trade like this, where you're going this all in for a second baseman, you could have done that a month ago for a starting pitcher. And
especially looking at CJ Abrams like slash line versus Casey Schmidt's, they're not that different.
Really good player. Depending on how you value him, different people value him different ways. I not a very good defender, but you put him at second and should be very good over there. I mean, potentially maybe with the speed could play center field down the line. I just don't. For me, that's like not the guy that I'd just have like, here's my Godfather offer for. So I'd much rather just, and maybe they will do this, and maybe this is part of this getting out. I'd much rather just hold tight and wait until the Cardinals finally decide that they're going to trade Brendan Donovan, which is going to happen at some point. And that's the guy Giants have been on all offseason, and we just see these other names. So
can we talk about that for a second? Like, I hate to interrupt you, but I feel like not that long ago, we were sitting here halfway on emergency podcast watch for a second base trade, whether it was Nico Horner or Brendan Donovan. And here we are, and I'm barely even remembering that.
Yeah, I mean, Donovan's kind of just been the guy all offseason. And maybe St. Louis ultimately doesn't end up trading him. One thing I think we've seen is that other teams are not as sold on the Giants farm system being up as maybe they are internally, and some other people are. And I think they've done it. I think they've improved a lot in the last year, but other teams are just not quite there with the packages. I still think if you're St. Louis, like, you did all this and you basically paid Arizona to take Nolan Arenado, like, you are taking a gap year. It does not make any sense to not go all in with your gap year and continue to push. So it feels like a game of chicken, and we're just kind of waiting until closer to pitchers and catchers, because you don't actually want the guy to show up in camp if you're going to trade him in March. So it feels like a game of chicken here right now. And I do think some of the stuff that gets out is a little targeted. Like, hey, there are other second basemen out there, but you got to make a decision here.
Speaking of kind of playing a game of chicken until spring training, Max Scherzer had a quote with Ken Rosenthal talking about how he's fine waiting until after spring training, after opening day, to sign a contract. And I was curious if you think that sentiment is kind of prevalent around the free agent class this year. or if this is just like he's an odd cat who is going to do what it takes to get end up where he wants to go.
He is not cat, and he's a special case, just
Yes.
age-wise. This would make sense for Verlander too, except I just think Verlander needs to take every shot at 300 that he can. So he needs to end up in a clearer spot. With Scherzer, we talked about this, like it's kind of the Roger Clemens thing, and it doesn't surprise me necessarily. It does, in an odd way, just kind of bring the Giants back into play and his friend Tony Vitello back into play, because there's no spot right now, but maybe there's a spot on March 17th. Maybe there's a spot on April 10th. So we had kind of closed the door on him because there's a full rotation, but I think this cracks that door open a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking is whether it's injury or whether it's just, hey, it would be nice to have another veteran arm who is tight with Tony V in the rotation. Mid-April, looking at that like Dodgers home series, I'd be okay with that little quick addition.
I almost feel like if you're going to do this, you're just waiting until, May or June almost.
Just the full wait?
There's not a huge difference between 29 starts and 33, but 20 starts and 33, like that's.
I cannot imagine Scherzer sitting there on his couch watching baseball in June. Yeah. I think he would take a veteran minimum at that point to get out there and throw a baseball at someone.
Yeah, he is a very intense.
Yes.
But we'll see. It's, there's so many guys still. I guess every 2 weeks we should just do the like Verlander, Smith, Flores, all still unsigned. So Zach Gallen unsigned, Framber Valdez unsigned. Like there's a million guys as we approach February here who are still waiting. And if you're a Max Scherzer and you want your 10, 12 million and prorated version of that, like you probably need to let Gallen sign first and let Valdez sign first and see what's waiting out there.
We should do a start of February who's still in the mix, a list off. But one guy who's not in the list, former Giant Taylor Rogers, not Tyler Rogers, signed back with the Twins.
He did. It made me wonder if we're going to see them like retire at the same point too, because now Tyler's signed long term. Mm-hmm. Taylor's the one who's kind of going year by year now, although he could do the Drew Pomeranz thing and just be the lefty for like, it's going to be an interesting competition of the guy who used to be a hard throwing closer but is left-handed versus the guy who looks like he can pitch for the next 25 years. Like which one's going to be done first?
They're both really equipped to hang in there. Totally.
Either one with their profile can do this forever.
Yeah. And then have we talked about Marco Luciano popping back up? Did we do that last week?
Bouncing around.
I feel bad.
Yeah, it's, these things sometimes get funny a little bit, but then you also feel bad. And I do think there should be some sort of like, you can be DFA'd, I don't know, 3 times in an off season. And then, or twice, I don't know what the number would be. We see this every year. This happens 1 or 2 guys in January because teams are trying to just get them through and get them on their AAA roster without having them on the 40-man. It sucks for the kid. And there should be some rule where it's like, okay, the third team that does it, like you have to hold him on your 40-man for a while. So probably not at the top of the list of the Players Association's fears going into the labor discussions this offseason. But when I see that, I'm like, come on. Like Baltimore, you clearly picked him up just to try to get him to AAA.
Someday when Luciano figures it out and hits it big and is like in the mix to maybe be an all-star, Orioles talk. It's going to be like, hey, good Oriole. We loved him.
By the way, our guy. Fantastic spot in New York because the power that he still does have is basically like, opposite field.
Oh yeah. For a 200-foot fence or whatever they have.
Just hit your line drives to right field.
Yeah, there we go. I hadn't thought about that actually. That you just put a bunch of specialists to poke one out right there. How have the Yankees not done that?
Poor guy's probably going to be DFA'd this week. But
yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you were a gambling man, how many more happened this offseason for our buddy Marco?
I would say one more. I'd
Yeah.
say one, you start getting closer to camp and teams are like, okay, it's time to
Yeah.
be real. But it's always the January thing. I mean, somebody should make a list of every single year. There's one or two guys in January who are going through this. They should at least send him a jersey, like so he has an Orioles jersey hanging in his house.
100% frame it. I mean, did they even assign numbers for this kind of short stint?
Probably not officially.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that should be the rule. You have to send him like a nice package of Orioles gear. So
Exactly. So he can put it in his man
in
cave. I like that. And then we kind of touched on it. I don't know. Before we get to mailbag questions, Alex, you have a lot of uniform number sickos in your mentions. Drew Gilbert, wear number 1.
Real number
Real
one.
number, like, and a special number too. Number 1 is something reserved for like characters.
It's a good number for him. It is. We're getting really close to pitchers and catchers here. Like I'm starting to like put things to the side where it's like need that in Scottsdale. That is to say that like he's currently the right fielder.
Yeah.
So I'd like the plan better if he was currently the center fielder, because I think he was so good in center field defensively. From the small sample we saw that would at least play up to his strengths a little bit. But they really have kind of telegraphed they want improved outfield defense, and Drew Gilbert's a way to do that. And now he has a manager who is 100% in his corner and goes out of his way to talk about how special a human being he is. And he has a number that is like you're a dude.
Yeah, he's got a main character number.
Yeah, he comes in with a lot of wind at his back.
Yeah. All right. The season of Drew Gilbert, as if 2025 wasn't Drew Gilbert heavy enough. We have he's back in the mix.
I don't hate the defense part of it, and hoping that he's ready for a big league shot at the plate. Don't totally hate it. The one thing about the defense thing is like, we know the right-handed compliments there are not defensive guys. So it's a weird mix of like, if you were to say we just want excellent defense in right field, which is very difficult to play at Oracle Park, that'd be fine. But then when a left-hander's out there and like Matos or Encarnacion are out there currently, it doesn't track as much. So we'll see where this goes.
Right. We'll keep an eye on that. All right. Well, we have a particularly slow week this week. So we stopped on mailbag questions. I would like to get to those, but first, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini's Sleep World. Every purchase is backed by Mancini's Rest Easy Promise, which includes a 365-night comfort guarantee where you can trust your mattress for a full year. If it's not the right fit, they'll make it right. A free next day delivery and old mattress removal. You can buy today and sleep better tomorrow with no extra cost. And a best price guarantee. If you find a better deal, they'll beat it. Get started, just visit sleepworld.com. All right, as always, as we dive into, I want to say like a dozen mailbag questions today. If you have any questions for Alex or myself, go ahead and send them to us wherever you can find us on social media. Between the two of us, you can find us probably everywhere but Facebook, I think we landed on, right? Twitter, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. Are you on TikTok?
No, which apparently is a good thing the last couple of days.
So, oh, yeah. It sounds like TikTok's over.
Something new. There's always something new. So we're, you can find us where, I think, by the way, you just reverse jinxed us into like you're like, slow week, lots of mailbag questions. Here comes the emergency pod.
I would like to throw that jinx on as often as possible. Let's emergency pod. But I want to start off with a fun one. Last week, we were talking about how we needed to get into hockey. And it completely slipped my mind, Alex, that you have been involved with hockey this offseason. Karen says, hi, I just listened to the latest pod, and you mentioned Heated Rivalry, the HBO show. Make sure Alex gets credit for its success. His book, Fighting for Top Sportsbook, introduced a lot of people to hockey romance. Alex, here is your opportunity. Would you like to formally take credit for the breakaway success of HBO's Heated Rivalry?
I have multiple screen grabs from last July, whenever my book came out, of me surrounded by hockey titles
Smut.
on Amazon's list, so I need to see if this was one of those.
The book is called Game Changer, so keep an eye out for that in your
Okay.
screen grabs.
Yeah, I don't know who won. I think if they're on Netflix, then Hockey Smut beat me.
Yeah, that's true. We're not on Netflix. Although the Giants will be on Netflix for opening day.
That's true. So maybe it's a tie.
Yeah, maybe it's a tie, but that is fun. I actually had completely forgot. I almost got you one of these books for Christmas. And my wife was like, do not waste your money. That's stupid.
Yeah, that's one of those where I'm like, great idea. Thank you. Glad you didn't waste.
Yeah, the execution, you can just tell the person you were going to do it and you do not have to spend the money.
Yeah, donate it to a pet charity or something.
Exactly. I'll donate it to Joybound instead. Eric says, I saw that the Giants sent minor league catcher Carlos Martinez to the Marlins for international bonus pool money. Do we know who the Giants may be targeting in next year's international draft? It seemed like Gonzalez and Hernandez were already predetermined signings before the draft. Does the international draft tend to land pitchers?
We don't totally know. I mean, they do know, but it's a little early, I think, to put too much of it out there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot that can happen in the last 2 days and of these things. So the last year is a little stressful, but I think that international money was more related to this year with just they only ended up signing 3 guys. So this gets them a little bit more money. There's no reason to worry about next January 15th yet in where you are. So I think we're going to see probably 1 or 2 more guys get signed this year. And they found a way to do that. Maybe some guys slipped through the cracks on January 15th and somebody they liked. Does the international draft tend to land pitchers? Yeah. I mean, Camilo Doval came from there. Randy Rodriguez came from this market. 2 of their top 10 prospects right now are international signs. So it does. It's just the top guys are generally like shortstops. So yeah. It's the easiest, most projectable thing. But it is a great place where you can, I think, Doval was $100K. Rodriguez was like $50K. So you do that a lot, and you see which one of these 16-year-olds who's really skinny and throws hard ends up becoming Camilo Doval, and then 10 of them end up never making it out of Dominican Summer League. But
yeah,
the value on that to get back-to-back All-Stars for $150K is tremendous.
Yeah. Doug says, what Bay Area artists would you like to see have a concert during a Giants game? And why hasn't it been Green Day? Also, do either you or Alex play any instruments yourself? Alex, you got any Bay Area artists in mind you'd want to have a performance from?
People probably know from listening, I'm like not very musical. I do think Green Day like sells out Oracle for back-to-back days. So that's
I think we talked about this on the podcast, but I was like, man, I don't care that much about Green Day. And I went to the show they did at Oracle and they were so good. Yeah. I was like, how did I even doubt them? This was awesome.
But that was like a real 40K back-to-back nights or something like that, or at least the one night. That's a real show.
That might be shooting too high.
Yeah. Here's after 30 minutes after final pitch. So I tried to play guitar when I was like 7 and it went horribly, but the funny thing about my kid is the most musical person I've ever seen. Like he falls asleep playing his little ukulele. So I don't know. He's the complete opposite. I don't think he cares about baseball at all. And we're going to see if people who have kids who play music, he's like just turned 2 and I want to put him in piano lessons already, which feels early, but I don't know. Has anybody done that? Let me know.
It's like Tiger Woods getting a golf club put in his hand at 1-year-old or whatever.
He wants to do it. So I'm like, whatever you want to do. All right. Maybe the next one will play catch with me.
My pick is someone I think the Giants have worked with before, but I don't think there's been any official like during or after the game concerts. And that's Lo Russell, who's like kind of the face of Bay Area rap right now. I think they worked with Lo Russell for the new City Connect reveal. It did like a community concert off site, but it'd be cool to do something as part of a game. I'm seeing him everywhere, and he's that would be like the obvious collaboration if you're working with a Bay Area artist.
Yeah, my guess is we're going to see some, part of Their what was their theme last year? I don't even remember. We had it like 3 years in a row.
It doesn't get better. It doesn't get
Yeah.
more stuff.
I think that ran its course. I
Yeah.
believe that. I think there's a whole new campaign coming this year.
That's going to be an emergency podcast, Alex.
Maybe someone local will be part of that.
Great. And do I play any instruments? No. I think I like the idea of carrying an acoustic guitar around because that was like the vibe I was going for. Like I saw myself as a Jack Johnson, but no, I do not play anything well.
I learned one Johnny Cash song in college just to like be cool.
Oh, that is very cool.
But not to be cool. Like thought maybe it'd work.
Yeah.
Work on some people. So
yeah, it did it.
That was it. That's my whole background.
Yeah. No, back in the day, I could play like, I don't know, The Middle by Jimmy Eat World. There was like 3 or 4 songs I could do. But that is gone. I could ace Guitar Hero, the video game though.
There you
Put
go.
me in front of that and I'll crush it.
That counts.
Yeah, that counts, right? That's what musicians love to hear. Ted asks, doesn't it make more sense to start having young players learn the respective positions they are expected to play in the bigs earlier? That way they begin to learn the ins and outs sooner. Alex, how are you interpreting this question?
I assume it's like an Eldridge question or like a,
sure,
maybe a response to all the Giants having 12 minor league shortstops now. There's a little bit of that. I mean, the thing, it's really a balance. Like the thing with Marco was he was most valuable as a shortstop. The problem was pretty early on, everybody else except for a few Giants officials determined he was not a shortstop. So if you were trying to tell other teams like trade for this power hitting shortstop, they were looking at him and going, he's not a shortstop. So it's you might think this has extra value, but it does not. So there's a balance here. I mean, somebody like a Johnny Level or Gavin Colleen, who are those two guys seem likely to end up at other positions or second base. It's still valuable for them to play short as long as they can until maybe the industry or the Giants determines that that's not their future. And I do think one thing that's like massively overrated is the guy learns a new position, like especially throwing a guy in the outfield. It's not quite the like Moneyball thing of like tell him wash, whatever, but
it's incredibly difficult.
Yeah. I mean, some of these things are complicated, but look what Devers did last year. Just, hey, go play first base. And we saw him a lot of times on the wrong foot and saw him a lot of times in between. We also saw him at times look like a future Gold Glove winner. So there is value in keeping guys at short, keeping them at third, keeping them in center field, and then moving them around, moving them when you have to. So I don't think it takes that long for these guys to grow comfortable.
Yeah, I sometimes do get surprised at players who can't wrap their head around a position. This is some of the best baseball talent in the world. Obviously guys like Buster Posey, who are just like a baseball savant, not the website, the concept. He played every position in college. He could do it all. So I kind of maybe am coming from it as like, that is what my expectation of a big league ball player is, outside of just not being shaped right to play a position. It seems like a lot of these guys should be able to handle what is thrown at them. And realistically, it's probably not that easy, but it does make me kind of like cock my head when someone's really failing to play left field.
Yeah. I mean, that tells you sometimes a little bit about preparation. The one caveat I'll say is that one thing I've heard from players over and over again is it's tricky sometimes to move to the other side of the field. Like if you're a first baseman, they put you in left field. A lot of those guys are more comfortable in right just because they're like, I'm used to that angle. But again, there's so much time and there's batting practice and there's, like Casey Schmidt last year, I remember it was like a Monday in Houston and he was taking ground balls at first base. And it was like 2 days later, he's starting at first base and he made a mistake the first night. And then I thought a month later, he looked really solid out there. So the good athletes, the shortstops, usually those guys figure it out.
Yeah. AJ, I skipped one. Dane says, with the lack of big league catcher experience in the coach's room, do we see Buster mentoring the catcher's room a bit more than he may already have been?
I don't think so. I'm sure he has specific conversations with Patrick Bailey that other executives cannot, but I've never gotten the sense that he's meddling there. And honestly, like, Patrick's a 2-time Gold Glove award winner. So from a catcher standpoint, there's not much he needs help with, and his catching coach is back, and
Mm-hmm.
so I think they should be pretty set there. But yeah, it's if you're where it probably makes a difference is like in camp when you're
Mm-hmm.
the double A catcher who shows up and maybe Buster helps you with something. Or I think with pitchers he can help quite a bit, but I don't know that him and Bailey are having a whole lot of like, hey, you could have framed this one differently. Or
Yeah. I have to imagine, and maybe we've even talked about this on the podcast before, but I have to imagine that's a fine line to toe as a member of the front office and ownership group, not to feel like you're meddling or even undermining what's going on with the actual professional coaches who have been hired to do this job. So unless explicitly asked by Vitello and Vitello's team, I gotta imagine you route any advice through the guys who are doing the coaching.
Yeah, we're not behind the scenes, but just from what I've seen, like, have not seen a whole lot of that. So I would guess what's more likely this year in Tony's first year is just conversations about late game stuff and like, I would have done this different, or why do you do this? That's going to be the biggest deal this year.
AJ asks, you raised a good question on who might be a sleeper outfield option this coming spring training. Outside of the 6 names we anticipate, who are realistic sleepers from within the org? Parks Harbor is a ways away, but maybe a Bo Davidson. Anyone else we should be looking out for in spring training?
I think those are the 2 names I'm watching in spring training. Harbor played some outfield in the fall league. He is a little bit older as a prospect. He's an advanced hitter. Starting to see some helium as a prospect, and he doesn't really have a path to a corner infield spot at Oracle Park. He does have a path to a corner outfield spot at Oracle Park. So that is something I would expect to see in camp and we'll be looking for. And then Bo Davidson, he's the closest of these guys, and we've talked a lot about how careful they are with promoting guys and how I think they would want him to spend a whole year and another whole year preparing for the big leagues, but there's also not a whole lot ahead of him, and he has some tools that will translate pretty easily to the big leagues. So he's going to be a guy I think in camp we're also going to be very curious about. Those are the 2 names I would have said.
I am so ready for spring training battles like this. I am so ready.
It's always a funny time because especially with an off season like this where you come off like a lot of grumbling for a couple months, and then you get there the first day and you see Parks Harbor taking fly balls in left field and start going, what if he moves really quickly? So I know you and I are very ready to have like very niche things to break down for 10 minutes.
Yes, we're so close, Alex. All right. Julia says, last season the Giants did pretty horribly against the 4 other teams in their division. What can be done on the margins to help with this stat? More focused scouting or prep work?
Be better.
Be better. I mean, outside of one of those teams, and maybe 1.5, that was a strong division. I mean, obviously you have the Dodgers, for this foreseeable future perennial World Series champions. You have the Padres, who have been mashing the last few years, and then Arizona kind of punted halfway through the year, but until then, they have been just a Giants killer.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, the Dodgers are the Dodgers. They were 6-7 against the Diamondbacks, 11-2 against the Rockies. So the real thing here was San Diego, and I just think that's a bad matchup for them, and especially a bad matchup for last year's team, because last year's Giants team early on was built to like hang around and beat you in the late innings with a really good bullpen, and San Diego had an equally good bullpen.
Yes.
So I just thought that was a bad matchup.
Yeah, the way the Dodgers have like no soft spots in the 9 batting order, maybe 1. San Diego has that dense pocket that was really hard to get through. And it just feels like every inning they kept coming up.
it felt like those guys late in games too the last few years had some moments that they did not have against other teams. So
Yes.
the one thing I'll say about this question is it's a reminder that they are going to have to find ways to make up gaps elsewhere, because the last few years they've like really hung around 500 because they beat the crap out of the Rockies in part. So the Rockies are still going to be bad, but at some point they're not going to be you beat us 90% of the time bad. So
I don't know if that's accurate.
At some point they will at least figure out how to win at home.
Like mathematically, eventually they have to be good.
If you go back to 21,
anyone was going to never be good, it would be the Rockies.
Yeah, that used to be a tough place to play, and I think at some point they'll figure out how to make it a tough place to play again.
Yeah. Yeah. So someone's going to have a really fun job of solving that, and that'll make things very difficult.
You just signed up. So.
Yeah. Kathy says, if you have a slow news period, ding, ding, could you explain the difference between the 2021 season to the following seasons? Why didn't Kapler's strategies from 21 work in the following years? Alex, off the top, I have like one element that I think is the obvious one. And that is, career years from guys who either retired or did not have career years following that.
Yeah, that is. So, wrote a book about there was a chapter on this team, and did a lot of research and talked to a lot of people, including people on the other side, Kershaw and Justin Turner and Dave Roberts. And two things. One, that was just lightning in a bottle. Like I remember there's a quote in my book from Kershaw where he's like, everything went right for them. And he didn't mean it disrespectfully. It was true. Everything went right for 6 months. Like every lever, it happens sometimes. And that was it's just like, I don't think you can replicate that. I also don't think you can replicate Buster Posey and Brandon Belt and Brandon Crawford deciding that late in their careers that they're just going to become like the best trio in baseball out of nowhere.
Exactly.
And the one thing I'll say to your point about like one thing that came up a lot in the research for my book was, especially from coaches looking back and going, we didn't realize at the time how much Buster was driving that train, like how big an impact he was making on a day-to-day basis. And it is an interesting, it's something I will remember when he comes up for the Hall of Fame. And it's something I think people should always remember, that these are human beings and they're prone to a lot of things. And sometimes a great leader can lead guys in a different direction. And I don't know what, it'll go down as like a 4 or 5 win season, whatever, a lot of times for these guys. And his true impact might be 10 wins, just behind the scenes and late in games. And so that was one thing that always stood out to guys. But I don't know that. One thing about the Gabe era to me is I don't know that he changed the way he managed it all. And he was doing the same things. It was a lot of the same coaches. They just did not have these 3 guys who were outliers, and they kind of didn't have a lot of the other horses as well. So I think that was really the downfall of the next years, is the Giants bought into a little bit of 21 and the magic they had. And I've heard this from Giants people as well, that, the people leading the front office back then maybe thought like, we can replicate this every year. And you can, you can find an Austin Slater every year. You can find a Darren Ruff every year, and you can have a Gausman every year and not have to actually like re-sign the actual Gausman.
I'm looking at the 2021 team like WAR stats right now, and a few of the ones that stand out that I would have completely forgotten about. The pitcher with the second highest WAR on the team, Desclafani.
Yeah.
And you already mentioned Darren Ruff, but the third highest position player WAR coming from Ruff. I mean, that's basically what they tried to do, like you just said, for the years after that. And not only did that not work, they didn't have it bolstered by the veterans having career years.
Yeah, and I think it's one thing that I have in the back. It's a great time to answer this question, because it's one thing that's in the back of my mind going into this season, is there's a little bit of that with this rotation, at least. Like, can you do that again? And can the position players catch lightning in a bottle? And it's dangerous, because it's when it works, it looks great. But when DeSclafani and Wood and these guys start to struggle and Gausman's gone, we saw what happened.
Yeah. That will always be like I don't know if a what if year is right because they battled so hard. I guess what if that belt injury didn't happen at the end?
Yeah.
But that will always be such a fascinating year to think about because it was sandwiched between, I guess, the COVID year before that, but just mediocrity and just lightning in a bottle.
I will say there are people who are very involved with that team, who were on that staff and in that clubhouse, who felt like if they got past the Dodgers, they were going to win the World Series. And the conventional wisdom was always the Braves and the Dodgers said this during that next series, was that like we were gassed and we had nothing left. The Giants felt like they were a much better matchup for the Braves than the Dodgers would have been. And they remember, like, Scherzer said his elbow was cooked, and they felt like they matched up much better and could have won that next series. Now who knows what happens in the World Series, but that is an all-time what if, I think, because Brandon Belt had been healthy. And
I will tell you the what if. The Giants win the World Series. World Series MVP Chris Bryant. Buster Posey retires on top, and the Giants sign Chris Bryant to a massive long-term deal. That's the what if. Maybe we dodged a bullet on the World Series that year.
The aftermath of that, we could do a whole podcast on what the aftermath of that would have looked like. Because I could see that exactly happening. Chris Bryant was one of the best players on the field in that.
Absolutely. And we would be sitting here on Giants Talk pulling our hair out.
$200 million, do it.
Yeah.
So who cares?
Yeah.
It long term might have. And look, that a lot of those people who are gone now would still be here because they'd say I won a World Series. So, but on the other hand, they would have won a World Series. So who cares?
Yeah. All right. One more question before we wrap up today's episode of Giants Talk. Rob says, bringing back the Cole scale from his 1 to 10 rank, how significant the opening day. Bringing back the Cole scale from 1 to 10, rank how significant Giants opening day is for its opportunity to gain fans. This hasn't happened for some time, and it's a chance for the Giants to have the attention of everyone to start the season.
I thought the Cole scale was like 1 to 4.
Well, so the Cole scale was 1 to 10, but 5 was 0.
Okay. I remember it confusing me the first time, and I'm equally confused, but you can just answer this.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think national audience is that important for the Giants' opportunity to gain fans. I don't think being on Netflix really is that huge for their opportunity to gain fans. I think it's more about courting the fans here in their backyard and maybe courting fans in Korea where they already did their overseas trip. I don't see that many people watching a single game on Netflix who don't care about baseball and going, hell yeah, that's my team from now on. I'm buying a hat.
Now, what if they do that and then watch Caught Stealing and they go, it's time to be a Giants fan? I agree with you. I think for individual guys, like for Logan Webb, that's a great opportunity in front of a national audience, which he doesn't get very often because the Giants have not put him in the postseason.
Yep.
More than once. For like a Drew Gilbert who broke through last year, if he's starting on opening day, which maybe the matchup won't be there for him, but if he's starting on opening day, a chance to like everyone's like, oh, that guy from last year. So it's more of an opportunity for individual guys. I don't know that it moves the needle for the franchise.
Yeah. Now it's probably going to be one of those things where, I mean, I don't know who they're going to have in the booth. We've kind of speculated about it, but it could just be, I'm imagining a lot of upset Giants fans because of how much Yankees discussion and Aaron Judge discussion will be going on in the broadcast.
Yeah, just start getting angry now. It's going to be just an all-time like overreaction one way or the other because it's a Wednesday night game. It's the season opener. The Giants are off on Thursday. So if you're hyped, you're going to have 48 hours to go crazy.
Yeah, you take that Thursday off work.
If Aaron Judge hits 2 home runs that Thursday, you can call into KNBR and yell about not giving him $400 million. So
DM Alex.
Yeah, one way or another, it's going to be a real opportunity.
Yes.
Without. Yeah. I do think one thing we haven't talked about, which someone a Giant brought up to me recently, which is a good point, and it starts with that Yankees series, and we can get into this in March. But as you start preparing for the season mentally, people, and as you start thinking about like where they're going to be early on, really, really tough early schedule.
Mm-hmm.
It was Yankees at Padres, Mets and Phillies at home, at Orioles, Reds, at Nationals, and then Dodgers and Marlins at home, and then the Phillies at home to close out April. So that is a lot of postseason teams. That is a long trip early in the year. The Nationals are really like the easy one in that stretch, and they're like scrappy. So
that is rough.
It's on the road, so
okay. First month of the year, temper your expectations. That's a rough way to start our hype for the 2026 regular season.
It is a good thing to keep in mind going into spring training, because it's always important to come out healthy, but it's really important for this group, which I think is, it's Tony's first year, and they have not had a huge offseason so far. And even though there were 12,000 people at FanFest, a lot of fans are annoyed right now. So it's just probably not the year you'd want to start with like Mets, Yankees, Padres, Phillies. But
that's brutal. Just running the gauntlet.
You ready to go?
Yeah. All right. Well, the gauntlet begins. I'm excited to have baseball back. Opening day is in 2 months. Pitchers and catchers report in a few weeks. And Giants Talk is thrilled to soon have baseball to report on, baseball to discuss. Until we get to that, don't forget to send mailbag questions wherever you can find Alex or I on social media. Don't forget to subscribe to Giants Talk wherever you listen to your podcasts. Give us a glowing review if you're a fan. Don't bother reviewing us if you're not. Any other calls to action before we sign off?
We're good. Enjoy Sacramento FanFest for people who will be there.
Enjoy Sacramento FanFest.